It's the end of the first semester and it's time teachers start giving out marks. The first feedback, the first look into our report card, the first taste of validation. Some will prove their worst fears. Some will say goodbye to their free time. Some will prove that writing their papers with the help of sketchy websites isn't as efficient as they thought. And some, like me, will watch as their worst nightmares come to life. The test results are being thrown up in the air in the classroom for everybody to hear. Personal performance is now a part of the public domain. But I'm not having it. That's why I always ask teachers not to say my marks out loud. I don't want everyone to know what I got. I don't want people to judge me off of a number, and I wish I didn't judge myself over a number. It's hard for most people to fully understand the mind of the self-demanding overachiever. Many of you may associate that trait with a kind of whimsical, neurotic, and unsatisfiable personality. And you know what? You may be right. But it is also the case that this particular way of approaching life's challenges is overflowed with helplessness, anxiety, and pain. Being a self-demanding perfectionist means that your body and your mind don't allow you any other outcome than absolute excellence. Because in the mind of a perfectionist, everything other than a 10 is useless. And as we all know, excellence in all endeavors is far from possible. This means that the usual relationships humans have with its life's irregular performance, with its expected successes and failures, ups and downs, in my case, always implies a disproportionate amount of frustration and helplessness, because I'll never be good enough. Sometimes my friends try their best to explain to me that it's just not that big of a deal, that it's just a test, and I'm like, listen, no, you don't get it. This isn't a choice for me. Just relaxing isn't a feasible alternative. Now that you have some kind of insight into how my mind works, you can imagine my face when my history teacher, forgetting the silence clause in our contract, read out loud, Carola Orbuch, 9. A 9. My whole world crumbled. A 9 out of 10 in history, but all of my hand-ins had been 10s. All of my group projects had been 10. Most of the time, I was the only hand raised when he posed the question, so how come I get a 9? I thought I was good, but all of a sudden, I got a 9 in one of my best subjects. Sorry. And this was a public display of just how imperfect I was. So, something had to be done. I knew something needed to change in order to not get so frustrated at test results. So, I came up with the healthiest strategy to work even harder and to sacrifice even more and to get a bunch of hobbies I loved, like painting, drawing, and reading, to make more room for perfection. Because nothing comes for free. If I wanted perfection, I had to work for it. And that 9 in history proved that apparently all of my previous hard work hadn't been enough. And things started looking up, actually. That 9 in history turned into a 10. I felt confident when sitting for tests, and I was feeling pretty good with my performance. Except, of course, for the soul-damaging absence of an artistic escape, and maybe also the pressure and an exhaustion that haunted my mind in the search for unattainable perfection. But besides that, everything was sunshine and rainbows. Until one day, out of the blue, I received a math test result. Wasn't a 9, nor a 10, nor an 8. I had failed my first test ever. When I got the mark, everybody was already used to me not telling them what I got, but my tears gave it away. I cried so much that day, and everything people kept saying was, "Stop crying. It's not like anyone's dead. It's only one test, you'll be fine." But that obviously didn't help. All of that hard work hadn't been enough. I failed, which proved that I'm not good, that I am not Little Miss Perfect, that I have got the skills of an idiot who got too much praise and is not actually what she appears to be. Now, people wouldn't be dazzled by me if I wasn't the greatest. It proved everyone and myself that I was flawed, that I was imperfect, and thus that I was broken. I was broken. I felt like all of a sudden my brain didn't work anymore, that I was useless, that I was damaged. I felt like I couldn't continue being me because me hadn't failed ever. And if I wasn't Little Miss Perfect, then I didn't know if I had a real personality. I felt like I couldn't function anymore, that there was no utility to me because that one thing that I have been good at my whole entire life was school. And I was no longer good or good enough. I was this useless thing, like a broken vase. It's difficult to perceive ourselves as something other than broken when that's how we feel, isn't it? It's complicated to think of ourselves as something fixable when we feel absolutely destroyed, isn't it? It's hard to view the beauty in the imperfect, the glamour in the damage, and the allure in the shatter, and to watch as the crushed pieces of a once perfect vase fall to the floor. So what happens when we are faced with the imperfect, with the flawed? What happens when the fear of being broken takes over our minds and bodies? The unattainable will always be desirable. Perhaps that's why we strive for perfection. Because we live day and night comparing ourselves to each other. We admire each other's fake perfection in the sick and pernicious game in which we yearn for the unrealistic perfection of others as we portray our own unrealistic perfection towards others as well. And with this little game comes the spiral of anxiety and frustration that my body knows so much about. I listened until something happened to me. I remember one day, my grandmother took me to an art museum in Buenos Aires, where I live. Going out with her has always been the loveliest experience. We frequented that museum a lot. She knew I liked art and she wanted me to explore this world as much as I could. A section of the museum was dedicated to kintsukuroi, the Japanese art of repairing broken things. It consists in taking damaged objects and repairing them with gold or silver lacquer to enhance the beauty of this broken piece. So when I walked down that corridor and saw 2 tables filled with broken mugs, plates, and vases, I saw a reflection. I saw my broken soul, my imperfect mind, and my life in its infinite incompleteness. But for the very first time, I felt no pain. I wasn't disgusted at the broken, at the incomplete. I actually felt relieved and appeased because those broken pieces of a once perfect vase were inviting me to fix it. I saw the beauty in the broken, and I understood that kintsukuroi only existed to show me that, to show us the artistry in the damage. I saw the missing pieces as mysterious and the shattered edges as daring. So I looked at myself again and thought, aren't we all a little bit broken, a bit rough around the edges, a bit undiscovered, a bit damaged, a bit incomplete, but at the same time, absolutely beautiful in our own way, just like a kintsukuroi vase. I'm not saying that we should be absolutely satisfied with our current state, but just that reconciling with our flaws, our scars, and our weaknesses is paramount in order to appreciate life's beauty. That's how we learn to find beauty in the imperfect, because as we accept that we will never be enough, that life is infinitely incomplete, and that we are broken, and that is fine, we can move towards grabbing one by one the pieces of this broken vase that is our existence, and start enjoying the process of putting the pieces that have fallen to the ground back together, and admiring a life that will be worth living. In the imperfect, in the incomplete, in the task of fixing ourselves, our surroundings, and the world, we will learn that being broken can be beautiful. That life is not about mourning our broken state or suffering because we're incomplete. It is about being able to build and repair ourselves time and time again. Understanding that what is broken will always invite us to fix it. That it is worth to fascinate ourselves with lives and our own incompleteness and imperfectness. Thank you very much.